Sounds like it's working tonight. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to have a very brief service tonight as we have a very small group. Lori, is the broadcast on? Okay. Thank you to Lori Kaplan for running the streaming today. And I'm going to invite Lori to the bima now to light the Shabbat candles. And thank you all for coming and putting up with me. Rabbi is at Gucci and having a wonderful time with all of the campers, with all the ruach and enthusiasm that the young people have. Noah's still a camper. Yeah. Okay.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
You know how to do that? Hold the button and then at the same time slide it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, now let's turn to page 20, and we're going to sing Lecha Dodi. And we're going to do the first, second, and third verses, and the 9th verse. So join me when you catch on if you don't know it. If you know it from the beginning, join me immediately. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'liti la 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 la, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabala. Page 20. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haberacha, Merosh mikedem nisucha, Sof ma'aseh v'machshavati la 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 la. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabala. Let's go to verse 4 now, I'm sorry. Hitorari. You know what? I'm wrong. 5. Hitorari. Kiva orech, kumi uri shidaveri. Tavor Adonai elayach nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabala. And we rise and face the door. בואי ושלום, עטרת bara, גם בשמחה ובצחלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated. And we're just going to kind of wing it because I didn't spend a lot of time preparing, and please forgive me for that. Let's turn to page 28 for the Barhu. And I know I just told you to sit. I'm going to tell you to stand up again. Let's try to do camp style tonight, try to capture some of the energy. So, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach, hamevorach leolam vaed, hamevorach, hamevorach leolam vaed. Please be seated. On page 31 at the bottom. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Okay, on page 32, Ahavat Olam. Please join me. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shachbenu v'kumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nishmat b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael. On 33 at the top, let's join together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we rise for Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Anochi mitzavcha hayom alavavecha v'dibarta baham v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvechtecha v'aderech uv'shachpecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. אנ תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. I want to congratulate all of you. You have just chanted Torah. I mean that literally. This is directly from Torah, and the melody that we sing is Torah trope. If you look at the Hebrew, in addition to the vowels, you see some other funny symbols. This is on page 36. You see some other funny symbols that are not vowels or letters. Those are the trope marks. On that first word, ve'ahavta, if you look under the second letter, there's something that looks like just a right angle. And then above the last letter, there are two dots. Those are trope marks. And ve'ahavta, that's the melody for those two marks. And so on through the whole piece. Wherever you have a mark that's not a vowel or a letter in Hebrew, those are the trope marks. So you know more Torah than you thought you did. Okay, why don't we read it in English as well so that everybody understands what we just chanted. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take these to heart, these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Adonai, the God of truth. Okay. I hope everyone understands that in this prayer book, we have the Hebrew, the transliteration. What's underneath is usually a translation, and the opposite page is an interpretation of the same text. And I think we sometimes forget that that's what it is. Okay. On page 39, let's read responsively at the bottom. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage, Adonai, to say, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. We'll join in Michamocha. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh pele, Nora tehilot oseh pele. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ימיתי משה ומרים זה אלינו ואמרו זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. We're not going to continue with the Amidah since we do not have a minyan, but there's stories about that come from this part of the Torah that it's not a Torah story, it's a midrash. This Michamocha is also text from Torah, although we're not singing it with trope, we're singing it with Debbie Friedman's melody. But it's at the time when we crossed the Red Sea, and there's a story of leadership there. Moses led the Jews, or the Hebrews, out of Egypt. We all know that. And they came to the edge of the sea. And they got to the edge of the sea, and the Egyptians were pursuing them. And most of the people quailed. We can't go into the sea. We can't go around the sea. They have all this army coming after us. What are we going to do? But there was one person, Nachshon, who had faith, he had leadership skills, and he knew what had to be done. So Nachshon was the one who led the people across the Red Sea because he went into the water before it parted, and the water came up to his ankles, and the water came up to his knees, and the water came up to his waist, and the people called, Nachshon, what are you doing? You're going to drown. Come on back. Nachshon had faith, and he kept going, and it came up to his chest, and it came up to his chin, and it came up to just below his nostrils, and then the sea parted, and the Jews passed across the land. I wish that more of us had the faith and strength and leadership skills that Nachshon had. Since we don't have a minyan, I'm going to keep this a real short service. Let's go to page 60 and we'll sing Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. This is the prayer that we grew up with. Those of us in the Reform movement grew up with pretty much what's on page 61 at the top. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. And now I want to take time to think of those who are in need of healing at this time. I don't know what page it's on. Do you all need Mishaberach? What page? 253 if you need it. I'm sorry? I can't hear you.
I just said most books will open to it automatically.
Most books open to it automatically is what he said. Yeah, I guess they do. So this week, the people for whom we're offering a prayer for healing include Lev Dickerman, Teresa Todd, Rich Goldwyn, Aaron McElvin, Terry Anderson, Rivka Bat-Frimit, Lisa Duval, Carlene Webb, Joel Gendron, Maggie Barbieri, Ellen Stein, Leela Wilson, Paul Tackett, LMPD Officer Nick Wilt, Eric Gershkovitz, Mick Savkovich, Tom Sobel, Al Unger, Janet Elke, Fred Lee, Trina Postelwaite, Karen Doddridge, Jen Grove, Marty Rosenberg, Harold Hamburg, Margaret Phillips, Karen Pass, Helene Katz, Ed Gerson, Yosef Avraham Yehoshua, Ben Baila Liba. Are there any other names to add to this list? Deidre Bradley. Mishaberach avotenu mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make Make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu, mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Lori, is there anyone online? Okay. One person just came on. Okay, well, good. I don't want to say the same thing that I'm going to say tomorrow morning with the Torah portion, but I do want to talk a little bit about it today. And let's make it a discussion, and I will repeat any comments so that the person who is online can hear too. And Shabbat Shalom, who is it that joined us? Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom to everybody who's here, and thank you for being here, including those who are online. And this week's Torah portion is called Shalach, which means sent. It's the portion that talks about Moses choosing, or God instructing Moses to choose one person from each tribe to send into the land to scout it out. And this was before they wandered for 40 years. They came from Egypt, they made a stop at Mount Sinai, they received the 10 Commandments, and headed straight for the Promised Land. And they sent 12 spies, Moses picked 12 spies, and they're called spies, to go into the land and check it out. What kind of land is it? Well, it's a land flowing with milk and honey. It's wonderful, but it's filled with giants and fortified cities. There's no way we can go in there and capture it. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about the leadership of Joshua and Caleb, who were the two who said, yes, we can. But first off, why do you think one representative of each tribe was chosen? Any comments? Nobody? They brought back to each tribe the message. I think that another reason is because Moses and God were trying to make us into a people. And just like the states have representatives and they go into Congress, we're one country represented by people from each state. Well, they were trying to make one people represented by each tribe. Now, 10 of them didn't have enough faith and courage to move forward. What was God's response? Anybody?
I read it this week, but I know there's a lot of mention about sacrifices.
Well, I'm not going to get into the sacrifices part. When the spies returned with the fruit and they showed this giant cluster of grapes that it took 2 people on a pole to carry in to show them how big they were, and they complained that we would never be able to, God decided that the Hebrews were going to have to wander in the desert for 40 years because they still had the slave mentality. They couldn't form governments and take care of themselves. They didn't have the strength of faith to believe in themselves that they could go into the land and conquer, that God would still be at their sides. These are the people who came as slaves from Egypt and witnessed the miracle of the parting of the Red Sea, and they came to Mount Sinai and received the 10 Commandments in that amazing, awe-inspiring scene that we all have heard about or seen in movies, depicted in movies, where there was a cloud above the mountain and Moses went up and disappeared for 40 days and they gave up on him. And they built a golden calf, and then Moses came down and threw the tablets on the ground and made them grind up the calf and drink the water that had the gold in it. Then he went back up again for another 40 days. This time they waited for him. And then they all received the Ten Commandments, another miracle. And they wandered through the desert, and the well went with them. And during the day, there was a pillar of clouds to lead them. At night, there was a pillar of flame so that they didn't have the dark all night long. But these people still had no confidence in themselves. They had been born into slavery. They had lived their lives in slavery. Moses was this guy who was raised in Pharaoh's palace and disappeared after killing the taskmaster and then came back and said, I'm going to take you out and free you. Well, what are they going to do? So God's decision was that we had to wander for 40 years in the desert. Why 40 years?
Popular number in the Torah.
It's a popular number in the Torah. What else? Lifespans weren't that long then. 40 years, the generation that was born into slavery and had never known freedom would die off. The only ones who were allowed to go in, who survived from the slavery, Joshua and Caleb, because they showed the leadership. Moses was not even allowed in. Moses was allowed to see it from afar. But this is the time where they sent the spies in. And it says, we were like grasshoppers next to them. So anyway, that's a little bit of a rambling story about the Torah portion. Loosely based on Torah portion, it went beyond in a couple of directions, but focused on the spies in the land. Let me do the announcements, and I want to thank Laurie again for doing the streaming tonight. Shabbat services tomorrow morning are at 10:30. The Temple Shalom office will be closed on Monday, June 19th, in observance of Juneteenth. Come one, come all. It's time for Temple Shalom's annual meeting, Sunday, June 25th. It says 3 to 5:30. I hope it doesn't last that long. Watts Indoor Yard Sale is going to be Thursday, July 13th and 14th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day, Thursday and Friday. And there are a number of drop-off dates. I don't know what they are on the top of my head, but they've been in this week at Temple Shalom. And by now, everybody should have received the information for the annual meeting. There are a couple of updates to the proxy ballot that I'll send out by email early next week. The at-large position on the board has been filled. Jennifer Jacobson has agreed to step up and take that position. And of course, we'll elect officers at that meeting. And the only office that's still open is secretary. And I would encourage people to step forward and say, I want to be secretary. And I'll be glad to explain what's involved. I had an error on the proxy ballot. I had Linda Klein and Nancy Rennick's positions switched, and I apologize for that error. Nancy Rennick is outreach, and Linda Klein and Hetty Title are engagement. And I had them switched on the ballot. My error. Okay. Anybody else have anything that needs to be shared? Okay. We're going to go to page 291 now. And for me, the most meaningful prayer before Kaddish has always been Yesh Kochavim, because it speaks to me and it makes me feel closer to those that I've lost. So I'll sing it first for you in Hebrew, and then in English, and the English is a translation of the Hebrew. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המבחיקים בהשקת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. We remember. We remember. This week, we are observing the yardside of Christina Callum, and please rise when the name of your loved one is called. Ann Charlton, Gertrude Cohen, Bertha Friedman, Joseph Gravett, Molly Kaplan, Gordon Fleischaker, Jeanette Greenberg, Elsie Weiner, Celia Yanoff Morgulin, and we're in a period of Shiva for Donna Gould and Gloria Stein. May their memories be for a blessing as we rise and join in Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'b'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei almayah, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן ביעלמה ואמרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us all and to all Israel, to which we say amen. Does anyone have a song that they really would like to close with? I'll pick one if you don't, but I'm happy to entertain suggestions tonight. Okay, let's go with an oldie but goodie, but with a more modern melody. Let's do Adon Olam on page 321, and the melody is Boni Ashur's. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa b'chefzo kol אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה לה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה. והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה לה. בידו אף כדרוכי בעת אישן ועירה, ואמרוכי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Yeah, we can go and we can do Kiddush and Motzi. I'm sure there's challah and grape juice. A little bit shorter service. A little bit shorter service tonight.